Evening, everybody. This is Marilyn Bo from the Secretariat of the Basel, Rotterdam and Stockholm Conventions. I would be the privileged one to make this presentation with you during this webinar. Unfortunately, the chair of the Small Intersessional Working Group, Mr. Samhan, is no longer able to join us for today's webinar. He was expected to deliver some opening remarks at the start of the webinar, but unfortunately he had some technical issues and he cannot be with us today, unfortunately. However, I would like to acknowledge the presence and the participation of other members of the small intersessional working group that are here with us today. I would like to thank them for being here, and also invite them also to add anything regarding the findings, conclusions, recommendations of the final evaluation report of the strategic framework after my presentation, if they wish so. So with that, I will start right away the presentation on the report of the final evaluation of the strategic framework. So today's webinar has three main objectives. First of all, to provide you with an overview of the main findings, conclusions, and recommendations of the report on the final evaluation of the strategic framework, but also to indicate to you how those findings, recommendations, and conclusions would be presented and considered by the COP. So you will have some information about that. And also the aim is to inform you that there is a current opportunity also to further provide contributions to this work. So I would like to start by giving some background on the strategic framework. As you would remember, it was adopted by the Basel Convention COP-10 in 2011 through its decision BC 10/2. The strategic framework consists of a vision, guiding principles, means of implementation, as well as 3 strategic goals that are then broken down into 12 different objectives and specific indicators linked to each objective to be able to evaluate progress different times of the framework. In addition to the framework itself, in the decision adopting the framework, parties were also encouraged to take specific actions to implement the strategic framework through activities that were listed then in program of work of the convention through different biennia. The next meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Basel Convention COP-15 is expected to consider the report on the final evaluation of the strategic framework. So with that in mind, I would like to start then diving into the report. And first of all, giving you some information about the approach that was followed for the preparation of the report. So it's an evaluation report, meaning that each objective of the framework was evaluated. So comparing progress that was made from the year 2011, which was the baseline year, meaning the year before that the strategic framework was implemented. So comparing progress from year 2011 to year 2019, which is considered the final reference year for the evaluation. The baseline for 2011 was established by COP-12 in 2015 through the development of a report, which was based on responses by parties to a specific questionnaire on the strategic framework. The final reference year for 2018, or the most recent year, because sometimes it was, you will see, not possible to find information for 2019. So the final reference year for 2019 is based on a report also or party responses to the same baseline questionnaire, but that was run again for 2019, in 2019. And also additional information that was compiled from new information sources, in agreement with a new approach that was adopted by COP-13. As you would remember, COP-13 in its decision BC13/1 adopted a new approach for the preparation of the report on the final evaluation. First of all, it forewent the midterm evaluation because there was not enough information actually provided at the time through the questionnaire. So it decided to forego the midterm evaluation and also to adopt a new approach for the preparation of the final evaluation. So in this new approach, first of all, the COP established a small intersessional working group that was tasked to do several tasks, but in particular to assist the Secretariat in preparing the report of the final evaluation. And in addition to the establishment of the small intersessional working group, the COP also put forward an approach with two main steps. The first step was for the group and the Secretariat to prepare a compilation of all relevant sources of data and information that could be used for the preparation of the report and that were related to the indicators, obviously, of the strategic framework. And then in the second step, to prepare the report based on the information that would be sourced from those additional sources of information. So before going into the report findings, it's important to note indeed the sources of information that were used for the preparation of the report. So as mentioned before, there are responses from parties on the questionnaire. So we call it the baseline questionnaire because that was the questionnaire that was used to establish the baseline in 2011. So we have therefore responses for year 2011 and 2019. Whether the response rate to the questionnaire was limited. In 2011, only 20% of parties responded to the questionnaire. And for the questionnaire regarding the year 2019, 27% of parties responded. So in addition to this source of information from the questionnaire, other sources of information were used. For example, the discussions that we had at the last COP reflected in the report, as well as all the sources of information that were identified in the compilation of information set out in the document CHW14-INF5, which was submitted to the COP14. So those sources of information are annual national reports. So it is to be noted that for the national reports, we could use the year 2011, but at the time of preparing the report, there was not yet the reports for the year 2019. It was found that the national reports for the year 2017 provided the most comprehensive set of data. So when looking at the source of information national reports, the report really uses reports from 2011 and 2017. Then other sources of information are the classification of parties' compliance performance with national reporting obligations undertaken by the ICC. That was also a good source of information for qualitative information. Then for also qualitative information, there was the publication Without Frontiers 2. And often, you will see in my next slide, there was a bit of data limitation when it came to quantitative data and information. Therefore, the report used also a wide range of other information sources of a more qualitative nature. It was used indeed to inform the assessment of progress for the strategic framework. So the sources of information are like decisions of the COP, other products of the work of the ICC, technical assistance reports, or reports on activities of the regional centers, just to name a few. Yes, as mentioned before, the report also notes that there has been some limitations, however, in preparing the report. The most important one is the data limitation. It was found that indeed at times it was difficult to find comprehensive data and information to inform the evaluation of the indicators. And that was in particular noted because of from the submission rate from national reports. For example, 2016, 61% of parties responded or submitted their national report. Therefore, it means that 39% of parties did not submit reports for that year. So it's difficult indeed to have a comprehensive picture when we have yes, the shortage of data like that. The other limitation that the report noted also is that certain indicators didn't seem to relate so much or so closely actually to the objective or goal that they were supposed to measure. So in effort to overcome this limitation, the report provided information, additional information that was thought to relate more closely to the goal or the indicator that it was supposed to evaluate. So now I would like to present you the main findings, conclusions, and then subsequent recommendations linked to the final evaluation. And I would like to start with goal 1 of the strategic framework, which is on the effective implementation of parties' obligations on transboundary movements of hazardous and other wastes. So under that goal, we have four objectives. So we will start with the first one, objective 1.1, which is to reach a common understanding among parties of the definition, interpretation, and terminology of wastes covered by the convention, including the distinction between waste and non-waste. So that is the first objective under goal 1. And the indicator that was set out in the framework was number of agreed technical guidelines. So for this, for the objective 1.1, the report highlights that the convention has been successful in developing technical guidelines that indeed enhance parties' common understanding of the waste covered under the convention. It has also been very successful in developing other guidance manual or guidance documents, manuals, a glossary of terms, and it has also a process for the review of its annexes underway that add legal clarity to the convention. The report notes that this statement is particularly true for the technical guidelines on e-waste, in which the COP invested a significant level of efforts in having the technical guidelines adopted on an interim basis. From the information that was considered in this evaluation, it was however noted that a number of parties may not be using technical guidelines. And then in addition to that, it was noted that the number of technical assistance activities conducted on technical guidelines has gone down from the baseline year. So with those findings in mind, the following recommendations have been put forward. Before going into the recommendations, I wanted to have a side note that a number of recommendations are directed to the possibility of having a new strategic framework being developed. So more like a lessons learned or conclusions, recommendations towards having for a new strategic framework. So this is for the consideration of the COP, obviously. So today, during this webinar, I would not detail or focus on those recommendations towards a future strategic framework. I would focus more on the recommendations that are directed to ongoing thematic work issues under the conventions. So for that reason, I will focus only on those recommendations that are having their paragraph number underlined on the slide. So here indeed I have put the para number, the number of the paragraph that's in which the recommendation is set out. This is the number of the executive summary report. So just to say, So regarding this objective 1.1, one of the recommendations is indeed for the COP as part of its standard part of decision, adopting technical guidelines or adopting updated technical guidelines, that it should ask the Secretariat indeed to provide training on those adopted technical guidelines, and that also after the adoption of technical guidelines, it should be requested the Secretariat to disseminate widely the documents to all parties. And that also following that, training activities or outreach activities should be undertaken. In addition to that, it was also recommended that a short document should be prepared that explain how the technical guidelines can be used at the national level, and that short document be made available as part of training activities. The other recommendation put forward in the report that relates to Objective 1.1 is a recommendation to the COP to continue its efforts to finalize the e-waste technical guidelines. Now turning to Objective 1.2, which is to prevent and combat illegal traffic in hazardous and other wastes. So for this objective, we had indicator saying that parties have reached an adequate level of administrative and technical capacity to prevent and combat illegal traffic and judicial capacity to deal with cases of illegal traffic. And there were also two sub-indicators, number of parties that develop and execute training programs for the staff involved, and number of controls and inspections carried out. So the findings of the report are that it was difficult to assess progress against the indicator due to the shortage of data on levels of administrative and technical capacities of parties. Did the fact that reporting rate is at 61% for 2016 limits the information available in this area. And also the fact that the aspects of the indicators that need to be assessed were not necessarily actually included in the national reporting format. So it was indeed challenging to find data to inform the indicators. This being said, the report, however, highlights that in addition to that, it also highlights that it's difficult to assess the current level of illegal traffic, notably because there was little data on this matter back in 2011. The national reporting format did not request this information at that time. As you know, since 2016, the national reporting includes this information in Table 9. However, the report notes that there is current work happening on this matter undertaken by the ICC. So the ICC got the mandate by COP-14 to develop a scoping exercise about the extent of illegal traffic under the convention, using information that is submitted by parties under Table 9 of the national reporting format. And therefore, the next COP will have indeed useful information to look at on the issue of illegal traffic. So in a way, this is kind of addressed. The report also notes that illegal traffic is still of a concern, is still a high concern for a number of parties, and that the number of technical assistance activities addressing the prevention and combating of illegal traffic has decreased over time, and that those activities are subject to the availability of funding. The report also notes that the COP has developed a number of guidance, manuals, tools to help countries in the issue of preventing and combating illegal traffic, in particular through the work of the ICC. So this is also a good development or something solid that has been done in this area, and that at that time there is no need for any new manual. So with those findings in mind, the report put forward a number of recommendations. Recommendation 27, which indicates that the number, type, and geographic location of training activities in the next biennium should be guided by the outcome of the committee's work, including this scoping exercise on illegal traffic, as just mentioned. And that given the fact that voluntary funding is limited, given that these activities, these technical assistance activities are based on voluntary funding, the approach to training on illegal traffic should be in twofold. First one, focus on development of legislations for countries or parties that are lacking it, and then for parties that have legislations to undertake training on border enforcement and prosecution of illegal traffic cases. Then the other recommendation on this objective 1.2 is for the ICC to use its standing mandate on review and updating of reports to verify whether earlier manuals, guidance developed on the issue of illegal traffics need to be updated. Now we move on to the objective 1.3 under goal 1, which is to improve performance in meeting requirements pertaining to notifications of national definitions of hazardous and other waste, prohibitions, and other control measures. And for measuring this objective, there was one indicator, which is the percentage of parties that have notified national definitions of hazardous waste to the Secretariat in accordance with Article 3 of the Convention. So the main findings for this objective was that it's very much linked to the indicator, is that the indicator that was put forward in the framework was felt not very helpful actually to assess progress towards the overall goal, which is on the effective implementation of the obligations on TBM. So the indicator indeed to number of national definitions being submitted was not helpful because it's not mandatory under the convention to adopt a national definition that goes beyond the Basel scope. So for this reason, most of the recommendations linked to objective 1.3 are geared towards the possibility of developing a new strategic framework. So I won't go too much into details here. So objective 1.4, so this is the last objective under goal 1. This objective is to generate, provide, collect, transmit, and use reliable qualitative and quantitative information and data regarding export, import, and generation as required under Article 13 of the Convention. And the indicator for this objective was percentage of parties reporting information to the Secretariat under Article 13. So one of the findings of the report for objective 1.3 was that reporting increased by 10% over the life of the strategic framework. So in 2011, the reporting rate was 51%, while it was 61% in 2016. It was noted indeed that yes, the reporting rate is however 61%, so there are still 39% of parties not reporting, and that created indeed an important data limitation for the preparation of the report. The issue of failure to report is also a systemic, serious systemic problem highlighted by the Implementation and Compliance Committee, as you know, and the committee has done significant and conducting work to assist parties to report from the start of its mandate, and it's a continuous concern of the committee. So either through its general review mandate, but also through its specific submission mandate. So the report highlights the analysis, the report that the ICC has done on the issue of the reasons for failure to report that was submitted to COP-15. So it indeed lays out the possible reasons that explain indeed failure to report. So that could be, there are mainly three: the difficulties with the national reporting format, the national reasons, for example, lack of data due to lack of inventories, lack of legislations or institutional frameworks, a lack of capacity, like human resource or IT. And then other set additional reasons could be also linked to a lack of understanding of benefits of reporting or lack of understanding of consequences of non-reporting. So just the fact that the report highlight all of those elements in the report. And based on those elements and those findings, the report puts forward recommendations for Objective 1.4. The first one is that COP-15 should urgently consider additional strategies for improving annual reporting, taking into account the outcome of the classification of compliance performance for 2016 and 17, and including the results of the work done under the mandate given to the ICC to consider elaborating and further assessing measures not included under paragraphs 20A and 20B of the terms of reference of the committee that may be required when a party has not submitted its national report for 2 or more years since the report due in 2016. So this is the recommendation that is put forward in the report for Objective 1.4. The second recommendation is linked to technical assistance activities. It suggests that the technical assistance activities of both the Secretariat and the regional centers should prioritize the development of capacities of parties to develop national inventories as well as national legislation hand in hand in order to build on the approach that is taken by the ICC for specific submissions. And then recommendation 40 here is already, it has been already mentioned before. Right, so now we'll turn to goal 2 of the strategic framework, which is to strengthen the environmentally sound management of hazardous and other wastes. And here we have then Objective 2.1, which is to pursue the development of environmentally sound management of hazardous and other wastes, especially through the preparation of technical guidelines and to promote its implementation in national legislation. The indicator that was put forward in the framework evaluating the fulfillment of the objective was number of parties with national hazardous waste management strategies or plans in place. And then there was also a sub-indicator, number of guidelines on environmentally sound management of waste developed. So the main findings regarding Objective 2, it was also acknowledging that it was difficult to assess really the exact percentage of parties with that would have a hazardous waste management strategy or plans in place because of indeed the reporting rate. So it was indeed not possible to have an exact percentage there. The report also, from the information collected, acknowledged the very successful work done under the convention for the development of guidelines on ESM, in particular through the work of the expert working group on ESM, which develop various guidelines, guidance documents that are part of ESM toolkit, and that's the COP indeed considered that the work of the expert working group was successful and it had completely did its work so successfully at COP-15. Regarding the objective itself, so this objective has indeed a component which is linked to the development of national legislation, highlighting that it's indeed important to have national legislation to implement environmental sound management. And the report highlights that the development of legislation implementing the Basel Convention seems still to be lacking in a number of parties to the convention, and that it was indeed difficult to find any data on status of legislations in parties at the moment. At the same time, there is no mechanism under the convention to review whether parties have legislations implementing the convention. I'm just providing a very brief overview of the findings, but all the details are really in the report. For this, so with those findings in mind, a number of recommendations were put forward. The first one being recommendation 46. In order to address the significant problem of the development of legislations at the national level, COP-15 could entrust the ICC to review within available resources and according to COP priorities established for the biennium, to review parties' implementation of the convention into national law for the consideration of COP-16 and subsequent meeting. So that's a recommendation that was put forward for objective 2.1. Turning to objective 2.2. So the objective relates to pursue the prevention and minimization of hazardous waste and other waste generation at source. And the indicator that was laid out in the framework was number of parties that have developed and implemented national strategies, plans, or programs for reducing the generation and hazard potential of hazardous waste and other waste. So from the information gathered, it was found, in particular through the annual reports, it was found that 46% of parties in 2011 and 52% of parties in 2017 indicated having developed or implemented national strategies, plans, or programs for reducing the generation of hazardous waste and other wastes. So the report also noted that reporting on the generation of hazardous and other waste has also improved significantly as of 2016, even though it was no longer required for parties to provide generation data from that point. Yes, so it's important to know that, for example, 53% of parties provided data on waste generated in 2016. And as you know, reports on waste being generated at the national level has also connections and linkages with the SDGs, which has as one of its indicators 12 the amount of waste being generated. So this has connections also for the report on the SDGs. However, the report also highlights that challenges have been experienced in comparing reported data, waste collected from household between parties, resulting mainly from differences in definitions and concepts that are used by countries. And that was pointed out in the publication Waste Without Frontiers too, that this challenge of comparability of data on household waste could be addressed perhaps through the Basel Convention Household Waste Partnership. So that would, you will see, explain one of the recommendations. So the recommendations put forward are to 50, so the recommendation that is labeled 50, the COP if the COP wished to take further action, it could seek the provision of waste generation data by parties once every 4 years. And then it could also decide to update the Waste Without Frontiers to Waste Without Frontier publication the next biennium, so that it could serve as a baseline should it decide to develop a strategic framework. Then the other recommendation that relates to objective 2.2 is the COP, an invitation to the COP to address the issue of differences of definitions and concepts that are used to define waste collected from household. Yes, to help better address the issue of generation of household other wastes under the convention, and when providing consolidated data on this matter. And that could be undertaken through the Basel Convention Household Waste Partnership and the guidance document that is currently being Right, moving on now to the objective 2.3. It relates to it is to support and promote capacity building for parties to reduce the generation and hazard potential of hazard use and other wastes. So under objective 2.3, there is the indicator number of parties that have developed and implemented national strategies, plans or programs for hazard use waste minimization. So two sub-indicators, number of parties receiving capacity building support that report reductions in hazard use waste generation, and then number of parties receiving capacity building support for hazard use waste minimization. So under this objective 2.3, the report highlights that data collected show that hazardous waste and other waste generation continues to grow at the global level. That is mainly from the publication Waste Without Frontiers 2. And it also notes that while there hasn't been a lot of capacity building effort over the decade on the issue of waste reduction and minimization, there has been an increase the recent years to do regional technical assistance projects in this area, especially in the area of plastic waste. And also the convention has placed a particular attention to the issue of waste reduction and minimization through the Cartagena Declaration, as you know. That there has also been a significant increase in the number of guidance manual and guidance documents directed to this question. It notes indeed also that there are a number of workshops that has been held recently, resulted in valuable lessons learned, case studies in this area. Also the manual, the strategic framework could also provide further examples on waste prevention and minimization systems by countries. It was also highlighted that inventories are a key basis for undertaking national generation statistics. Efforts, yes, to assist countries to undertake it should be reinforced. For objective 2.3, the recommendation, something with my screen, I don't know, somehow I don't see it. Yes, I hope you can hear me. Someone told me that I cannot be heard anymore. Yes. So the recommendation related to objective 2.3 is about to perhaps for the COP to invite again countries to share their successful national examples of waste reduction and waste minimization. As you know, that was done the past under the Cartagena Declaration decision, but that it would be worthwhile to have such an invitation again. And then as part of the technical assistance activities of the Secretariat, the case studies or lessons learned that have already been collected could be made use of and could be made use of to assist countries that need such assistance. In addition to this, this recommendation also indicates that the Waste Without Frontiers 2 could be further publicized and disseminated to all parties that could benefit from conclusions and data contained therein. So now we move to the last objective under goal 2, which is objective 2.4, to facilitate national, regional and international commitments with regard to the management of priority waste streams, as identified in the program of work of the Convention, taking into account the priorities of developing countries and countries with economies in transition, and in accordance with the requirements of the Convention. So for that objective 2.4, we had the indicator that indicates that was number of programs, projects or activities carried out by parties jointly with other parties or together with other stakeholders aimed at the environmentally sound management of priority waste streams that have been monitored and assessed to achieve the goal. For this objective, the report points out that in general, the approach by the COP, using the open-ended working group, establishing small intersectional working groups, and inviting lead countries to indeed work on priority waste streams, has been very successful in pacing the demand for new and updated technical guidelines. The report also highlights that there are a number of old, let's say, technical guidelines that perhaps require updating, or at least haven't been translated into the 6 UN languages, and that it would be indeed up to the Conference of the Parties to decide whether to start working on updating those technical guidelines, or to request the Secretariat to arrange for translating those guidelines where appropriate. In addition to that, as you know, the development of technical guidelines is a core activity of the convention, and therefore the enhancements of dissemination of, as well as training and technical assistance activities on adopted technical guidelines is absolutely key, is appear fitting. So based on those findings, the following recommendations have been put forward. The current approach, yes, to establishing work on technical guidelines has been successful and should continue. Update or development of future technical guidelines should be prioritized according to their relevance for the fulfillment of the objectives and related indicators of future strategic framework. And then another recommendation indicates that any party concerned with the updating or translation of Basel technical guidelines should draw this to the attention of the COP, sorry. And then another recommendation goes, the COP should consider prioritizing the enhancements of the dissemination, training, and technical assistance activities on adopted technical guidelines. Okay, so I'm cautious of the time. The presentation is long, obviously, because the report is extremely comprehensive, has lots of findings, conclusions, and recommendations. So I really wanted to give you the most of it to understand better the recommendations that are put forward, but it takes time indeed. For the objective 2.5, which is to enhance and promote the sustainable use of resources by improving the management of hazardous use and other waste, and to encourage the recognition of waste as a resource. We had also here indicators and sub-indicators. Maybe I'll pass those because for this objective 2.5, it was extremely difficult to find data that would inform the indicator and sub-indicators. Data was very limited. In general, data on national generation and recycling levels are difficult to find. And the national reporting format was not requesting information that would assist in informing the indicators. Now turning to goal 3, which is the promoting the implementation of ESM as an essential contribution to the attainment of sustainable livelihood and Millennium Development Goals and the protection of human health and the environment. We had objective 3.1, develop a national and regional capacity, particularly through the regional centers, by integrating waste management issues into national sustainable development strategies and plans. So this one is yes, interesting too, because it was found that despite the mandate that was given by the COP to assist parties to integrate waste management issues into their national sustainable development plans, no funding has been received for this, and no requests have been received by the Secretariat by any parties. So when the questionnaire was circulated, it was reported that quite a number of parties actually have indicated that they have already mainstreamed waste management issues into their national sustainable development plans. Also, the report notes that there is currently a mandate by the ICC. The ICC has currently a mandate to to assist indeed how to help or assist parties in integrating their national reporting needs into their national development, sustainable development frameworks. So noting also that there is ongoing work on the DICC in this area. The recommendation that was put forward is to the COP would could provide guidance on how individual parties can integrate their needs under the Basel Convention into their sustainable development cooperation framework. And then now we'll turn to objective 3.2, promote cooperation with national, regional, international bodies, in particular cooperation between the three conventions to improve environmental and working conditions through the environmental self-management of hazardous and other waste. So for this one, it was thought that cooperation is already at cooperation between the three conventions are the standard manner of conducting business under the three conventions at the moment. And yes, and it's mainly a recommendation for a possible future framework. I will now turn to how the report will be considered at COP-15. So there would be mainly 4 documents being prepared for COP-15. There would be a first working document, document 3, with the draft decision on the strategic framework. Then you will find an executive summary of the report in an addenda 1 to document 3, which will be translated in the 6 UN languages. You will have the full-fledged report in information 5, and then there will be another information document which will contain the additional comments received from parties and observers on the report, as well as views that parties and observers may have on whether to develop a future strategic framework and or an effective evaluation pursuant to paragraph 7 of Article 15 of the Convention. This slide shows you how the recommendations pertaining to agenda items of COP14 have been integrated in documents being prepared. So on the left side, you have agenda items of COP15. Then the second column is paragraphs or the recommendations basically that would be taken up the documents, and then the document symbol of the documents. So all the recommendations that indeed pertain to agenda items of COP15 will be reflected in documents being prepared for the meeting. However, the report of the final evaluation has other recommendations. There are recommendations of an overarching nature or pertaining to the possible development of a future strategic framework or effectiveness evaluation. And those would be reflected in the main working document on the strategic framework. When it comes to more detailed recommendation on a framework, objective, indicators, then those one would be left in the executive summary, and it would be for the COP to decide, first of all, whether to proceed with the development of a future strategic framework before looking into those more specific recommendations. So I will conclude my presentation now to indicate that there is an invitation that was made by the Small Intersession Working Group to parties and observers, indeed, to provide further comments on the final report or the draft report on final evaluation, and comments on whether to develop a future strategic framework or effectiveness evaluation for the convention. So the deadline is the 17th of March for providing such comments or views to the Secretariat. And with that, I would like to thank you very much for your attention, and I would like to open the floor for questions, comments on this presentation and on the report of the final evaluation of the strategic framework. Thank you very much. So yes, for questions, comments, you may either raise your hand by clicking on the raise hand button on the left, on the right side of your name, or also send a chat as you may find convenient. Thank you. don't see any hand raised. Don't see any messages in the chat box. Maybe it's a bit of a thing. I don't know. I don't know if also take this opportunity to invite any members of the small intersection working group to say a few words if they want to, because they've been the one to the work. All right, I see the hand of Ms. Bernier. Please, you have the floor, Ms. Bernier.
Thank you, Marlene, and good day to all. I just simply wanted to take the floor to thank you very much for this presentation. It's true, it's a lot of information, but I think it's reflective of all of the work that has gone into this this report, which is, you know, I guess from my perspective, a very important output of the intersessional work going into COP-15 with respect to how we look at the how the convention has been implemented and how it's been going up to this point. So I certainly look forward as a member of the group to receive you know, additional views beyond those that we have received so far. And we thank you for this webinar, because really the intent, and I know this is something that the working group had identified as an activity to really try and you know, promote even more this work and garner more comments and a maximum of input into this report going into the COP. So again, thank you very much for this presentation, Marlene, and we very much look forward to the comments that may be received between now and COP-15. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bernier. This comment, yes, so the deadline is indeed 17th of March, submitting additional comments or views. So there is still a bit of time indeed, that deadline. And yes, we will share the presentation also after the webinar. Should also it help for the consultations. Okay, so I think there was a comment, the chat box by Mr. Abbas Torabi. Please extend the time for providing input on the report, considering the person. Yes, considering that the in-person meeting of the BRS COPs has been postponed. Thank you very much, Mr. Torabi. Yes, so maybe it's a point that I can mention because it was mentioned in the other webinar on the strategic framework yesterday. As you all know, there are ongoing consultations indeed taking place in regions, the leadership of the bureaus to agree to a format, a new format and dates for organizing the 2021 COPs, given the exceptional circumstances of COVID-19 pandemic. The fact that it won't be possible indeed to organize the face-to-face COPs in July as originally planned. So I can confirm that, and so the bureaus are currently considering options, and one of the options would be to organize the COPs meetings in two parts. One online part, which would be in July 2021, and then a resumed face-to-face meetings of the COPs in 2022. So what would, and the online part of the COPs would most likely only tackle or consider prioritized agenda items that are considered absolutely essential, very time sensitive, and all the other agenda items of the all the other items of the COP agenda would be then considered only at the face-to-face part of the meetings. So most likely the agenda item on the strategic framework, but I'm putting a lot of conditional here because it's all being discussed at the moment, and there would only be a decision at the next at the resume session of the joint bureau meeting, expected to be next week. So most likely the agenda item on the strategic framework is not going to be considered for the online segment, meaning that the consideration of this item, the report and the draft decision would only be at the face-to-face part of the COPs in 2022. Therefore, this gives additional time indeed to receive comments on the report of the final evaluation itself, as well as views on the future development of a strategic framework or effectiveness evaluation. So I can confirm that more time would be provided, yes, for providing comments. However, we are not yet in a position to tell you until when. It depends a little bit what is the decision for the dates of the face-to-face part of the COPs meetings. But as soon as more clarity is provided on the format for the organization of the 2021 COPs, we will be able to communicate widely this type of things for all the groups that are established under the Basel Convention. All right, so I was hoping to provide a short answer, but it's quite complex. Thank you very much for the question. In any case, so that the same information has been provided during the 2 webinars. Thank you. If I'm not mistaken, I think the presentation is currently being transferred to you. Right, so you should have a pop-up window in front of you now on your screen, and you need to click on the file name, then download, I think, to be able to download the presentation on the computer. So I think, I mean, I hope it works for everyone. Thank you. So let me see if there are other hands raised. Yes, Ms. Bernier, please. Go ahead.
Hi, Marlene. I'm very sorry to be taking the floor again. On the transfer of the document, I mistakenly simply shut the window as I thought this might have been my system prompting me something. So I don't know if you could try again, maybe. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. My colleagues will do the thing again. All right, so I think now the window is back. Takes a bit of time to show the file names. Yeah, here we go. It's the file name, so you just need to click on the file name and then download. It works for everyone. Yes, so I don't see any other hands raised, no messages in the chat box. Okay, so okay, we see that there is a message from Mr. Torabi. Yes, we can also send the presentation by email, no problem. Okay, so I think we will shortly close the webinar. I would like to thank you very much for your participation. The Secretariat remains available should you have any questions this topic, and we also look forward to receiving your comments and views as per the invitation by the Small Intersectional Working Group. And yes, I wish you a lovely day, evening, depending where you are. And, I hope to see you soon online or soon in person for the work under the Basel Convention. Thank you very much. So we will now close the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlene. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining.